To the ocean I go, into the ocean I go. Hello everyone. So we wanted to share some thoughts about Neptune stationing direct right now. Neptune went retrograde in June around the solstice time, and Neptune is stationing direct this Saturday, just a couple days before we have our first eclipse of this eclipse season. When we are dealing with Neptune in general, the stationing direct, the stationing retrograde, it always has to do with our relationship to truth with a capital T. Neptune is the way in which we are in constant relationship to what is essentially eternally true about who we are, about life, about the present moment. And thus with Neptune, we're always in this dance with how are we in relationship to right now? What is our relationship to the essential, unchanging truth of reality? Neptune teaches us that everything's okay, that there's no problem, there's no conflict, and that all those things at the core only exist at the level of mind, at the level of perception. And when we perceive conflict, when we see that there's something wrong with our lives or in our relationships, the tendency of fear is to want to figure out the resolution. So there's a lot of blame and shame or reconciling, trying to find a way to find and come back to peace. And all the things that we do, all the efforts that we make to come back to a place of wellness, of peace, of love, in the end are conditional. Because it's like, if I can organize everything and make sure it's all, back in this construct that I feel secure about, but it's like anything can happen. Someone can say the wrong thing. A fire can come and burn your house down. So Neptune actually teaches us to reorient to what is true. And this is not necessarily within the realm of our understanding or immediate comprehension. There's a beautiful teaching that I received recently from David Hoffmeister, and he was kind of just explaining the Course in Miracles. Actually, this is from a conversation between himself and Francis Wu. They were saying that one of the teachings in the Course is all we need to do is notice, how do we feel, right? How do I feel? That's something we can do at any moment in time. All right, I feel angry. We could even notice our judgments. I feel angry, I feel resentful. This person is this. And there's something really healing about just acknowledging what's present. Now, what most of us do is we have a connection to what's present. I feel fear, distress, anxiety, worry, depression. And I think this about this person, or this and this person did this to me. And then we embellish it. We'll either really believe it or we'll try to find a solution within the realm of our believing of it. So we kind of stay fixed in our perceptions of distress and separation. But this teaching they were offering was, you notice it and then turn to source and say, what's your will? What would you have me feel? How would you have me see this person? What's your will? What's the truth? What's the truth about this relationship? What's the truth about right now? And there's something deeply healing about just that gesture of being honest with ourselves, acknowledging what's here, but then turning towards something beyond our own making, something deeper than what we're generating with our own subjective and limiting thinking. Saying, what's the truth? Will you teach me? I'm open. And we can't force what happens next. There's a miracle, actually, there's a healing, there's some sort of grace that becomes available just then, just right there, because it basically says, and this is so core, even though I have this experience of fear, even though I'm having this experience of distress and discomfort, of whatever is present right now, I acknowledge it, I see it. There's a faith, Neptune, this underlying devotion and knowing that I'm going to always draw upon, that's always available for me to reference something that doesn't depend on circumstance. It doesn't depend on my interpretation. It doesn't depend on my understanding. An underlying holy perspective that always invites a knowing of peace, a knowing of wellness. What happens with us on the Neptune journey is we really learn how to bring our mind, bring our thoughts in resonance with Source, in resonance with love. So when Neptune is moving direct, it's an opportunity to think of it like this. Neptune is at a complete standstill. Neptune is just like, it's not moving right now. It's going to begin building momentum come Saturday or after Saturday. So this is a moment where there is a great focus, like putting your finger on the pulse of Neptune. And consciousness becomes still and more introspective, more reflective of how am I seeing the world? How am I thinking? How am I looking upon reality? And this is a great opportunity to come into prayer and to maybe clear the past. Come back into a renewing and a refreshing of how we are in our heart, in the heart of our hearts, in prayer, in our true desire to live in peace, to live in love with one another, to live in love in our life. And I find that Neptune stationing direct can often just bring a lot of healing, a lot of clarity, but usually there's a lot of confusion. Because it's a new direction, there's a new path opening up. And so we have to be willing to just create some space from the ways that we've been thinking about life.
So with this particular station, I think it's really interesting because in our first video, we talked about Neptune squaring the nodes. And I'm starting to feel more and more the reality that Neptune represents unconditional love. And that each and every one of us is living inside a true story of unconditional love. And similarly, the way Neptune represents the dream world, it's like when you have a strong dream and you wake up and it feels almost as if it's real. Like, you know, a dream that you wet the bed, or a dream that, you know, someone was angry at you and you were being chased. And it's like you wake up and then all of a sudden you look around and you are in your own bed. The sheets aren't wet. You're not being chased. You're totally safe, but you can't shake the feeling from inside of the body. Like, this is the remembering. And with that story of unconditional love, it's like any great novel, you know, where the protagonist has to go through this challenge. Neptune squaring the nodes at all those circumstances, people, events, situations, which on the surface seem to be bringing up everything that is not love, seem to be bringing us into a fear and resentment or deep hurt or anything that is not love. But ultimately, that journey is always back to love. It's always coming back to when we get to the truth of the story. And this is, I think, what's so beautiful about what Ari was saying is, how would I see this in order to see this true story through the lens of unconditional love? What would I need to know or understand? And that is a prayer that I've been holding through this Neptune retrograde. I feel like all these things, that little grievances or stories that I would want to hold on to about why I can't love or accept this situation as it is, this person as they are, they've all been coming to the surface. And I've really been holding like this question of how can I see this situation in the truth of what it is and what it's giving to me right now. And getting closer and closer to forgiveness, getting closer. And forgiveness is just, I always think of this, to give as before. So it's a returning to the moment before I perceived any harm, any error. Because before that moment, I was in unconditional love. I was in the truth, and then I might have lost my way, or they might have lost their way, or whatever is happening. It's like all of a sudden I believed I was inside the dream and I was being chased. And to come back and wake up again and be like, oh, okay, I can see this differently. I can actually see the truth of how much love and resilience and capacity, wherever Neptune is in the chart is often reflecting where the journey of unconditional love is. And in my chart, it's in the 5th house, in the house of children and creativity. And, for me, my children have been one of the greatest sources of waking me up. And they continue to reflect back to me. Everywhere I am learning how to love unconditionally. Everywhere in my childhood, I might have been placed in conditional expectations, or where I might have believed that I was to behave a certain way in order to be loved. And that's coming back to the truth, that there is no way that we can be that is not fully loved.
This reminds me of that teaching that we hear a lot. Ego wants to say, let me get these things resolved, then I'll find peace. Whereas spirit always invites, find peace first, and then everything will be resolved. Because the teaching within Neptune is that peace is an inherent condition. We want to argue with that a lot. We really want to find that that's not true. We want to prove that it's not true. And yet the possibility here on our journey is this practice of remembering and actually putting into practice. It's something that we can apply and actually work with. The possibility that peace, that love, that togetherness, all these words, safety, belonging, home, wellness, these are all things that come when we're not in struggle, when we're not seeing conflict. To look for the truth of that, even now, even here, it's such a powerful thing, and it's a beautiful practice. So yeah, much love to us all as Neptune stations direct. And this Neptune's also going to be squaring the nodes. It's stationing direct as it squares the eclipse points. So it's really activated. It's really connected to this eclipse journey. I'm going to be speaking a little more about this on Sunday, giving a free class on the eclipses. You can check that out in the link below on my website.
There is a prayer that one of my teachers offered recently, which is, may all that is ready to be healed be healed, and may all that is not ready to be healed be moved forward into the realm of possibility. So may it be so.
Ocean of love, forgiveness and wholeness, the ocean of now. The ocean of love, forgiveness and wholeness, the ocean of now.